This is Allison and me. She is my best friend. We spend a lot of time together. We have shared some surprises. We have shared many joys. We have shared some sorrow. But most of all, we have shared a lot of fun together. On June 10th of this year, we are getting married. This is where we had our first date. This is where we sat and talked about our work, our shared passion for music, and the spark started flying. But in order for this to happen, something else had to happen, which led us to this very important moment. This is William. He is my nephew. He is the reason why Allison and I first met. Or rather, his birth set in motion the chain of events that led to Allison and I first meeting. This phenomenon is known as the butterfly effect, whereby a small localized change in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. Before William was born, I was living in Austin, Texas. I was happy. I was playing a lot of soccer. I was playing and seeing a lot of live music. But mostly, I was teaching English at Webb Middle School. I loved my job. Every year, my students took the TAKS test. The TAKS test was a multiple-choice assessment that evaluated, among other things, the literacy of my students. In other words, the test was designed to assess how well my students could read. 98% of my students were living in poverty, and the majority of these kids were learning English as a second language. Every year, sometime in March, my students took the test, making the months leading up to the test extremely stressful. I had a very challenging job. During my 4th year of teaching and living in Texas, my sister and her husband, Steve, got pregnant with their first child. In February, on Valentine's Day, William was born. This made me happy. Although I flew out in January for the baby shower, I was not there when he was born. Soon after his birth, my sister contracted sepsis and became extremely ill. William also became ill. My sister was in the ICU, and William was in the NICU. I was horrified. My sister could have died. William could have died before I even had the chance to meet him. I was 1,957 miles away from my sister and William. I couldn't leave Texas and abandon my students right before the TAKS test. I didn't know what to do. Fortunately, both my sister and William got better. William and Megan returned home safely. In March, my students took the TAKS test and did an outstanding job. I finished the school year in Texas, but I could not stop thinking about William and my sister. I wondered about what could have happened. I would have felt terrible not being there had there been a different outcome. I made a life-changing decision. Before I even finished the school year, I decided I need to live closer to my family. I resigned from Webb after the last day of school and flew back to Massachusetts to try and find a new job. Fortunately, I got a job teaching at the Healy School in Somerville. I then flew back to Texas and drove my 1998 Toyota Camry with a U-Haul trailer full of my possessions to Massachusetts. After living in Massachusetts a few years, I met Allison. We went on dates. We fell in love. We went to weddings together. We met each other's families. We went on trips together. We even visited Texas together. As time passed, I knew what the next step was going to be. On June 10th, 2016, 2 years after our first date at the public house, I returned home late at night, exhausted from a school field trip to New York City. The next morning, I woke up early and started making a picnic lunch. I made a lot of food. I packed it into Tupperware containers. I packed the Tupperware containers into a picnic basket. I closed the picnic basket. Allison and I walked to the T and went to the Boston Public Garden. We ate a wonderful lunch. When we were finished, I proposed to Allison. She said yes. Later that afternoon, we met up with our parents and went out to dinner together. On June 10th, 2017, Allison and I are going to get married here. This is the Pierce House in Lincoln, Massachusetts. We are super excited. However, if it weren't for William, which set together a chain of events that led to this, Allison and I may never have met. For this, I am grateful. Thank you, William.